Rolling Tin Fist.
Hello, man. It's 2 a.m. in the morning, and I have about 4 hours and 20 minutes before I have to be up. So, how did I get into this mess? Well, I know myself well enough to know that when I have a psychological itch, I gotta scratch it until I get to its conclusion. Around midnight, when I typically go to bed, I had a thought of my ex fiance. I what I call my starter marriage, because we were together for several years and lived together for a handful. Anyway, and through our change of events, the ring that I wear now is the ring I had bought then because not only did I lose the ring that I had when I got married, just as a odd turn of events, I wasn't about to buy another one, and then I looked through some old stuff and I found that ring. So, long story short, I'm looking at the ring and I start to think of going through my pictures. I didn't expect to find any. There were one or two that, despite my best efforts to get rid of when we separated, still remain. And I will still come upon them from time to time. And so, despite trying to get rid of, the letters and, the pictures we had of the house at the time, what I came to learn is that because we had such a deep, relationship and she was a big part of my family as well. We traveled a lot together, had a house together, all that. Going to relatives, I would see pictures that I wouldn't even remember or think had been in existence. Or I would go to, other cities with maybe friends, I would see pictures. And so I came quickly to the conclusion over the years that as much as I tried to just purge it and really not deal with it, that it would always come back and kind of stick in my head. So why the hell is all this important, and what the hell does it have to do with MGTOW? So what I've noticed is as I read through, comments, I listen to videos, particularly from, I would say, men in their maybe early 30s and 20s, and then this is not exclusive, by the way, just something I've picked up. There's a sentiment of, women are just bad, and they're evil, and nothing ever came good of them, and blah blah blah. There was no value ever. That sentiment that it's all bad. It was always all bad. There was no redeeming quality out of the experience. However, when you listen to, I would say, some of the more mature and seasoned MGTOW producers, you get a little bit more forthcoming, a little more thought, and just really reflection. And I never really weighed up on it because, first of all, I'm not MGTOW, I'm awake, I'm all married, and I didn't feel it was important enough to really, say something about. But here I am, having kind of run back into some old things that it's years behind me. I mean, close to 20 years at this point. But at the end of the day, nobody gets into a relationship with a person that they know it's going to be a pain in the ass. I mean, nobody goes into a relationship, no man goes into a relationship with a woman saying to himself, this is going to be a fucking disaster, but I'm going to do it anyway. There's usually some benefit in there. Sex aside, there is still, particularly when you're young, like when you're your late teens, early 20s, there's an affection, there's an attraction, there is some connection between you and that other person that makes you go for it. Now, some elements of relationships will be favorable. This is where the whole Nawalt things comes from, right? Yes, women in and of themselves aren't 100% evil for the entire time you're going to know them. There are going to be periods where they're actually downright pleasant. There's mutual respect, mutual feeling, right? But those are all snapshots, right? They are individual snapshots like these photos. So when you look at a photo, right? Typically when you see photos, they're not of people who hate each other that are pissed off or fighting, right? No. They're people smiling, they're in Aruba, they're in Paris, they're in Hawaii. Everybody's happy, everybody's young, everybody's beautiful, right? And so that's why we have pictures, to remind us of the good times, quote unquote. And I'm not talking just about pictures of exes and spouses. I'm talking hanging out with your homies, birthday parties, your kid's bar mitzvah, whatever. They're snapshots of memory, but they're not really indicative of real life, right? They're not. They're kind of like the highlight reel. And it's important to not take the highlight reel for the entire picture. At the same time, don't forget that there were moments that were highlights that made you get into that particular relationship. It's easy, particularly after you've taken the red pill and you go through the red pill rage, to just, all women evil, it was always bad, all of it was bad, I shouldn't have done any of that at all because there was absolutely no value out of any of it. And that's only partially true. There was some value in it because even a bad experience, you get experience and wisdom from it. And, when a lot of men says, just don't even bother with women. If you're a true monk, then perhaps. However, as a lot of content producers have said, even if you abstain from women sexually dating, chances are you're going to have to work for a living outside of a box. And outside of that box, you will most likely have to interact with women in the workplace. So for that reason alone, you should have some kind of experience with women. And the more experience you have, the better. Again, this does not necessarily mean sex, but understanding how they think, how they operate, okay? The games they play, and women do play games, and just understanding how to interact with them, right? Because when you do that, you can leverage those things to your advantage. But to pretend that there's absolutely no value whatsoever with any of your past relationships with women because you're going through this, yes, I've gotten the red pill, I'm angry, you lose the value of those experiences, particularly if you haven't processed them yet, right? And even for me, being married, seeing some photos of, when I first met my wife, on the wedding, when our children were born, and even looking at some of those pictures, remembering those particular times. Those were joyous times at the time. Fast forward today, things are a little different. They're not 100% evil, but clearly the honeymoon is long over. And you have to deal with the current reality. I have to deal with the current reality, even with the red pill. So the value in those snapshots is that, at least for me, I'm reminded of the value those relationships gave me in terms of the development I needed as a man, the wisdom I needed to get from understanding women, and knowing, quite frankly, what to avoid with women. Really ugly, horrible behaviors and habits. Now, if I did not have these relationships, I basically would be, as somebody once said in a video, one blow job away from the plantation, if I was MGTOW in the true sense. And a lot of men, to be honest, are in that situation where, they may not have that much experience, and they figure, okay, I've got the red pill, and they're ready to go, and they think they're bulletproof. And then, your pussy kryptonite comes along, and boom, before you know it, you got a kid, you got 2 kids, and you don't know what the hell happened. So I'm going to go to bed, but I leave you with the thought of using those positive snapshots from your past, whatever they may be, and even some of the negative ones, to add to your tool belt, your mental tool belt, when interacting with women. Take care.